The sun was low over the valley, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The air was warm, and a quiet wind moved through the tall grass. At the center of the valley stood an ancient stone temple. Its walls were cracked, and vines covered its pillars. For hundreds of years no one had entered, and the people of the nearby villages believed it was cursed. Travelers from other worlds had visited the site many times, but they found nothing except broken stone and empty halls. Among them came a man named Tamash. He was not rich, nor did he have powerful machines. He carried only a small pack with food, water, and a hand scanner. His eyes were sharp, and his steps were steady. Unlike others who came only for treasure or quick answers, Tamash carried patience. He believed every ruin had a story, and stories were treasures of their own. The locals watched him from a distance. They whispered warnings, saying that the temple swallowed anyone who stayed too long. They spoke of strange sounds and glowing lights at night. Tamash listened but did not turn back. He respected their words, yet something in his heart told him there was truth hidden under fear. As he reached the steps of the temple, he paused. The stone was cool to his touch, smoother than he expected. Carvings lined the doorway, worn by time but not erased. He traced the shapes with his fingers. They were not like the alien languages he had studied. They were simple, geometric, and almost familiar. It was as if he had seen something like them in old human records on Earth. Inside the temple the air was still and heavy. Dust floated in faint beams of sunlight breaking through the roof. The hall stretched long, with broken statues lying on the floor. Birds had made nests among the stones, and roots grew between the cracks. It looked forgotten, but to Tamash it felt alive. He pulled out his scanner, and the small device buzzed quietly in his hand. A screen lit up, showing faint energy readings beneath the temple. He frowned. The lines were clear, pulsing like veins. Something strong was hidden deep under the structure. Kneeling, Tamash pressed his hand to the floor. The stone felt solid, yet there was a vibration, subtle but real. He whispered to himself, "There is more here than stone." His words echoed in the empty hall. He explored further, moving slowly and noting every detail. In the center of the hall stood a broken statue of a figure holding a staff. The face was too worn to see, but the posture suggested strength. Around its base were more carvings, arranged in patterns. They were not random decorations. Tamash studied them closely, comparing them to notes stored in his scanner. His device failed to translate, but his own eyes saw rhythm in the shapes. Tamash remembered an old book he had once read about early human scripts. They were not advanced alphabets but symbols, circles, lines, and dots arranged to tell simple truths. The carvings on the statue reminded him of those. He felt a chill, realizing that the connection could not be chance. He pressed one of the symbols. To his surprise, the stone shifted slightly under his hand. It clicked softly, then stopped. Tamash stepped back quickly, his heart beating fast. Nothing else happened, but the discovery was enough to spark a fire inside him. If the carvings were more than decoration, then the temple held secrets no one else had cared to see. Hours passed as he searched every wall and every broken column. His food lay untouched, and the light outside began to fade. In one corner of the hall, hidden behind fallen stone, he found a narrow gap. He pushed aside loose rubble and uncovered a small stairway descending into darkness. The steps were narrow and steep. Each one was carved with the same strange symbols. Tamash leaned close, running his fingers across them. He could not read them fully, but he felt their meaning. They spoke of warning and challenge, but not of destruction. They were guiding marks, meant for someone who could understand. Tamash lit a small lamp from his pack. The flame flickered, throwing shadows against the wall. He stood at the top of the stairway and looked down. The air was colder here, carrying the scent of stone long hidden from the sun. For a moment he hesitated. He thought of the villagers and their warnings. He thought of the other explorers who had searched the ruins and left with nothing. He thought of the risk of being lost in the dark beneath the earth. Yet the pull was stronger than his fear. The energy readings from his scanner, the carvings on the walls, the familiar shapes from human memory, all called him forward. He stepped onto the first stair. The stone creaked under his weight but held firm. One step led to another. The walls closed in, and the light of the upper hall faded behind him. His lamp was the only light, and its glow made the symbols dance. Tomasz spoke quietly, not to break the silence but to steady his own heart. If there is truth here, I will find it. If there is a story, I will hear it. Down he went, deeper and deeper. The stairway twisted and spiraled, as if it wanted to test his patience. Yet Tomasz did not rush. Each step brought him closer to something hidden, something others had missed. His body grew tense, his mind sharp, his spirit ready. At last, after what felt like hours, the stairway opened into a larger space. Tomasz stood at the edge, his lamp high, and looked into the darkness ahead. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in shadow. From the ground rose giant pillars, and at the far end he thought he saw the faint outline of massive doors. Tomasz took a deep breath. The journey had only begun, but already he knew this was no ordinary ruin. The temple was not built to scare away villagers or trick explorers. It was a message, a puzzle, a doorway waiting to be opened. He tightened his grip on the lamp and stepped forward into the chamber. His heart was filled with both fear and wonder, but above all, hope. Tomasz stood at the edge of the hidden chamber, holding his lamp high. The flame trembled, and shadows stretched long across the ancient pillars. The air was cold and heavy, carrying the smell of stone and dust. The silence pressed against him, yet he felt the chamber was not empty. It carried the weight of countless years, and the faint hum of energy still lingered in the walls. He stepped forward, his boots echoing softly on the floor. Each sound seemed to run far into the darkness. The chamber was immense, and his small lamp barely lit a circle around him. Still, Tomasz kept moving, his eyes sharp, searching for signs. The pillars were carved with the same strange markings he had seen on the stairway. Some were clear, others were faded with time. He traced one with his hand and felt a slight vibration, as if the stone itself was alive. The markings were not only decorations, they were instructions or messages left by the builders. The floor was smooth, yet cracked in places. Tomasz bent down to inspect a line that ran across the ground. It was not random. It was shaped like an arrow, pointing deeper into the chamber. He smiled faintly, realizing the builders had left a path for those who were willing to look closely. As he walked, he thought of the explorers before him. They had entered the temple, searched its halls, and left disappointed. They had looked only for gold or jewels. They had not seen the signs, and so they had walked past the truth. Tomasz, however, carried no greed. He carried patience and curiosity, and that was the key the temple seemed to answer. He followed the cracks and carvings until he reached the far end of the chamber. There, rising tall and silent, stood the massive doors he had glimpsed earlier. They were built from a dark stone different from the walls, smooth and polished, untouched by time. Golden lines spread across their surface, forming patterns of circles and stars. Tomasz raised his lamp closer. The patterns shone faintly, as if they held light of their own. He touched one of the golden lines, and the surface felt warm, unlike the cold stone around it. The warmth spread through his fingers, and the golden glow grew stronger for a brief moment before fading again. His heart raced. The doors were not dead stone. They were waiting. But waiting for what? Or perhaps for whom? Tomasz stepped back and studied the designs more carefully. The golden lines formed a map, not of land but of the sky. He recognized the shapes of constellations, though they were not placed as they appeared from this planet. He tilted his head, trying to adjust his view. Then he gasped softly. The stars were arranged as they would be seen from Earth. A chill ran down his spine. What was a map of Earth's night sky doing on a temple far across the galaxy? The connection was too direct to ignore. He realized at once that this place was built with humans in mind. The thought filled him with wonder and unease. Did humans once travel this far before recorded history? Or had another people carried human knowledge across the stars? He did not have the answers, but he knew the doors would lead to them. He placed his lamp on the floor and pressed both hands against the doors, pushing with all his strength. The stone did not move. He tried again, but the doors remained still. They were not meant to be opened by force. Tomasz crouched down to study the base of the doors. There, hidden between the golden lines, he saw a small depression shaped like a hand. His breath caught. It was not the hand of an alien, but a human hand. Slowly, with both caution and excitement, he placed his palm over the shape. At first, nothing happened. Then the golden lines lit up, one by one, spreading across the doors like flowing rivers of light. The glow filled the chamber, brighter than his small lamp, and the air vibrated with deep, humming sound. The doors trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. With a long, heavy groan, the stone began to move. A thin line appeared between them, widening as the doors pulled apart. Tomasz shielded his eyes from the growing light within. When the sound quieted, the doors stood open, revealing a vast passage beyond. The glow came from lines running along the walls, guiding the way deeper underground. Tomasz picked up his lamp, though he no longer needed it. The golden light was steady, warm, and alive. He took a deep breath. He felt as if he had crossed a threshold, as if the temple itself had accepted him. He stepped through the doorway. The air was cooler, fresher, as if it had been preserved for ages. The passage sloped downward, leading deeper beneath the earth. His footsteps echoed softly, but there was no fear in him now. Only curiosity, stronger than ever. Along the walls, he saw carvings different from before. These were not only symbols but pictures. They showed people, human-like figures, working with tools, building structures, mapping stars. Tomasz stopped at one and studied it carefully. It showed a group of humans standing beside what looked like a machine, tall and shining, with beams stretching into the sky. His mind filled with questions. Who were these people? How long ago had they lived? Were they ancestors of his own kind, or a lost branch of humanity forgotten by history? He continued down the passage, picture after picture telling fragments of a story. At last, the tunnel opened into another chamber, smaller than the first but more precise in its design. The floor was smooth, the walls perfect, and in the center stood a pedestal with a glowing stone upon it. Tomasz approached slowly. The stone pulsed with golden light, steady and calm, as if it were alive. Around the pedestal, more carvings circled like a halo. They were written in the same script he could not fully read, yet his heart told him this was a key, a guide left for someone like him. He stood before the pedestal and felt the air vibrate gently, like the heartbeat of the temple. He reached out his hand but stopped just short of the glowing stone. His thoughts ran fast. Should he touch it? Would it reveal secrets, or would it trigger dangers? He did not know, yet he felt he had been brought here for a reason. The temple had opened only to him, had shown him paths and symbols others had missed. Tomasz lowered his hand slowly until his fingers touched the edge of the pedestal. The golden stone pulsed brighter, and the light spread across the chamber, filling every corner. The carvings glowed, and the hum grew stronger. Tomasz closed his eyes, steadying his breath. The journey was far from over. The descent had brought him here, but what lay ahead would change not only his life but perhaps the story of all humanity. The golden light from the pedestal filled the small chamber, making the walls glow with patterns that seemed alive. Tomasz stepped closer, his heart racing with wonder. Every carving, every line of light, seemed to move slightly, shifting as though it was telling him a story. He could feel a hum in the air, not loud, but strong enough to vibrate in his chest. He leaned forward to examine the carvings more carefully. They were like pictures, showing humans working together with strange machines. Some machines were large, with wheels and arms, others looked like instruments pointing at the stars. Tomasz studied each one, feeling a connection he could not explain. The people in the carvings moved with purpose, building, measuring, recording. Their eyes seemed focused, determined, as if they were preparing for something important. Tomasz realized the chamber was not just a storage space. It was a message, left behind by people who had lived long ago. They had wanted someone to find it, someone who could understand the signs. And now he was here, the first human in ages to step into this place. The pedestal in the center drew him again. The glowing stone pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Tomasz reached out slowly, placing his palm on its warm surface. Instantly, a wave of light spread from the stone into the walls, lighting the carvings brighter and brighter. The entire chamber glowed like a miniature sun. Then, something changed. From the far corners of the chamber, lights began to form shapes. They rose slowly, turning into tall, humanoid figures made entirely of golden light. Tomasz stepped back, startled, but the figures did not move aggressively. They hovered silently, watching him. Their shapes were elegant and precise, like they had been created for a single purpose. One of the figures stepped closer, and Tomasz noticed a pattern in the way it moved. It raised an arm slowly, pointing toward the pedestal. Then it spoke in a voice that was soft but clear, not with words, but in Tomasz's mind. "Welcome, human. We have waited for you." Tomasz's eyes widened. He did not need to speak aloud, the voice entered his thoughts directly. He swallowed hard and answered carefully. "I am Tomasz. I do not know why I am here. I only followed the signs." The light figure's form seemed to shimmer. "You are chosen. The temple was built for your kind, long before you returned to the stars. We guard the knowledge here. It is not meant for others." Tomasz felt a mixture of awe and disbelief. Humans had always thought they were newcomers to the galaxy, fragile and inexperienced. Yet these figures were telling him the opposite. Humanity had a history that stretched beyond Earth, hidden across the stars. He took a deep breath. "The symbols, the carvings, they are for humans." The figures nodded. Their light pulsed like a slow heartbeat. "Yes. Others cannot understand. They see only stone. You see the meaning because you are of the same bloodline. The knowledge here is a gift, and a test. You must prove your mind is ready." Tomasz's thoughts raced. A test? He looked around the chamber. There was only the pedestal, the glowing stone, the carvings, and these strange guardians. How could he be tested? Suddenly, the pedestal stone pulsed more strongly. A section of the floor shifted, revealing a hidden panel. The figures gestured toward it. Tomasz approached and knelt, examining the panel. It was covered with small shapes, matching the carvings on the walls. He realized it was a puzzle. Not one of strength or weapons, but of thought and understanding. He traced the symbols carefully, remembering the carvings he had studied. One by one, he pressed them in the order that made sense from the story he had seen on the walls. The golden figures moved with the flow of the puzzle, their forms creating soft music that filled the chamber. It was not sound in the usual sense, but a resonance Tomasz could feel in his chest. It encouraged him to continue, guiding his hands as he pressed the symbols. Hours seemed to pass, though Tomasz could not be certain. His mind focused entirely on the task, connecting the story from the carvings to the sequence on the panel. Finally, he pressed the last symbol. The stone on the pedestal flared with brilliant light. The hidden floor lifted slightly, revealing a staircase descending further into darkness. The golden figures hovered aside, forming an archway for him. Tamash's heart pounded with excitement and fear. He had passed the first part of the test. Go forward, the voice said again in his mind. The vault awaits. Only humans can enter. Tamash nodded. He took a deep breath and stepped toward the staircase. The golden light followed him, illuminating the path ahead. Every step seemed to echo with history, as if the walls themselves remembered the footsteps of those long gone. As he descended, he glanced back at the chamber. The figures remained there, watching silently. He knew he would not see them again until he completed the trial ahead. A sense of responsibility filled him. The knowledge hidden below was powerful. It was not just gold or material wealth, it was wisdom and history, secrets that could shape the future of humanity. The staircase opened into a long corridor, walls carved with more symbols and pictures. Tamash walked slowly, studying each one. He saw humans observing stars with instruments, building structures, teaching children, creating machines that could fly and travel across planets. It was a story of skill, courage, and intelligence. He realized the builders had left the story of humanity's potential here. They had preserved it so that humans, even after losing touch with their past, could find it again and remember who they truly were. At the end of the corridor, a large door appeared. It was simpler than the doors above, without the golden lines, but it radiated a sense of importance. Tamash pressed his hand against it. The door recognized him. Slowly, it opened, revealing a vast room beyond, faintly lit by the glow from the walls. Inside, Tamash saw shapes that made his breath catch. Large crates, machines, and piles of golden plates filled the room. Each plate had inscriptions, drawings, and maps. The chamber was a vault of knowledge, built to preserve everything human civilization had once learned across the stars. Tamash stepped inside carefully, awe-filling him. He understood now that the temple was not a ruin at all. It was a message, a guide, and a home for the legacy of his species. The golden figures had disappeared, leaving only their light behind. Their words remained in his mind, "You are chosen. The legacy is yours to protect. Remember who you are." Tamash felt a mixture of pride and humility. The journey had only begun, and the vault promised more mysteries and challenges ahead. He knew he had been tested, and he had passed. Now it was time to uncover the secrets that humanity had left for itself, hidden beneath the temple ruins for centuries. Tamash stood at the entrance of the hidden vault, staring at the vast room before him. The glow from the walls was soft and steady, enough to reveal the treasures inside. Crates, stacks of golden plates, machines, and strange devices filled the space. It was not a treasure of gold or jewels, but a treasure of knowledge. Every item seemed carefully preserved, untouched for centuries. He stepped cautiously into the vault. The floor was smooth and cool under his boots. His lamp was unnecessary now, as the walls themselves provided light. Tamash moved slowly, examining the piles of plates and crates. Each plate had symbols and diagrams etched into it, glowing faintly under the chamber's light. They were clearly records of information, but Tamash did not know their full meaning yet. He picked up one plate and ran his fingers over the carvings. Some shapes looked like tools, others like machines, and some resembled planets and stars. Tamash's mind raced. These were not just records, they were blueprints. Ancient humans had designed devices and systems far beyond what anyone living now could imagine. Tamash's excitement grew. He placed the plate carefully on a pedestal, hoping to keep it safe. As he did, a soft hum filled the air. He looked around, startled. The machines in the room began to glow faintly, as if awakening from a long sleep. Lights traced the edges of devices, and moving parts shifted slightly. The room was alive in its own way, reacting to his presence. He stepped back and watched. Among the machines, he saw a device that looked like a telescope, taller than a human, with lenses that glowed faintly blue. Another machine resembled a map projector, with a flat surface covered in stars and lines connecting them. Tomasz realized these machines could explain the stars, the planets, and even the paths between worlds. He walked to a large crate in the corner. It was heavier than anything he had touched before. With effort, he opened it. Inside were smaller plates, each marked with symbols of people building structures, making tools, and teaching. Tomasz could see the story of human civilization in miniature, carved in gold. Every generation seemed represented. Tomasz carefully lifted a plate and studied it. The carvings showed humans observing stars with instruments, measuring distances, and drawing maps. It was as if the ancient humans had recorded all their knowledge so that one day someone like him could find it. The thought filled him with awe. He continued exploring the room. Every corner had something new. A stack of golden plates showed designs of machines that could fly without engines, floating above the ground. Another stack had diagrams of energy sources, glowing softly. Tomasz felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. The knowledge here was powerful. In the wrong hands, it could be dangerous, but in the right hands, it could change the future of humanity. He walked to a central pedestal, larger than the first. On it lay a single golden plate, larger than the others. Its carvings were intricate, showing a human standing on a hill, pointing to the sky, surrounded by others who watched and recorded. Tomasz recognized this image. It was not just a story. It was a symbol of leadership, intelligence, and curiosity. He reached out and touched the plate. The golden light from the vault pulsed gently, spreading across the room. Machines shifted slightly as if responding to him. Tomasz realized the vault was interactive. It was not just a place to store knowledge. It was designed to guide and teach those who entered, those who could understand its meaning. Tomasz felt a sense of wonder. The builders of this vault had left more than records. They had left a test of understanding. Only someone with patience, intelligence, and a human perspective could unlock the full secrets. Other species had come before, searching for treasure, but they had failed. Tomasz understood now why. He knelt and examined the floor around the pedestal. Symbols were carved into the stone, similar to those on the plates. He traced them with his fingers, noticing patterns and sequences. As he pressed one carefully, a section of the pedestal shifted, revealing a small drawer. Inside were additional plates, smaller and more detailed. Tomasz studied them one by one. They showed designs for tools and machines that could build structures without heavy labor. Others showed methods to observe planets and stars with great precision. Tomasz realized the ancient humans had developed technology far beyond the current age. They had preserved it here for a future generation capable of understanding it. Hours passed as Tomasz moved through the vault. He carefully examined every plate, machine, and device. His mind raced with questions and ideas. How had these humans traveled so far across the stars? How had they learned so much without modern tools? Tomasz felt both humbled and inspired. As he explored, he noticed that the plates were not only about technology but also about philosophy. Some showed humans working together peacefully, sharing knowledge, and teaching one another. Others showed decisions made with careful thought, weighing consequences for the greater good. The vault was a record not only of skill but of wisdom. Tomasz realized the importance of this discovery. The vault was not just a relic of the past. It was a guide for the future. Whoever understood it could lead humanity to new heights. He understood now that the builders had chosen carefully. Only a human who could think, learn, and act wisely could unlock its potential. He walked to the far side of the vault, where a machine stood alone. It resembled a large, glowing globe. Symbols surrounded it, showing planets, stars, and routes between them. Tomasz pressed his hand against the globe. The surface shifted and rotated, showing maps of distant systems. He realized that this device could navigate space, even across planets and galaxies. Tamash's excitement grew. He had found not just knowledge but tools to explore and learn. The vault had been waiting for a human capable of understanding and using it wisely. He felt the weight of responsibility. The knowledge here was a gift and a challenge. It was not to be taken lightly. He carefully recorded his observations, taking notes and photographs with his portable device. He knew he could not carry the plates or machines out of the vault. They were too important to be removed, but he could preserve the information in another way. As he prepared to leave the central pedestal, the golden light pulsed one last time. Tamash looked around the vault, filled with awe. He knew he had crossed a threshold. The journey through the temple had led him here, to a place that held the key to humanity's past and future. He took a deep breath, feeling both pride and humility. The vault had opened to him, but the greatest discoveries were yet to come. There was more to understand, more to learn, and more to protect. Tamash stepped carefully toward the exit, his mind alive with possibilities and questions. He knew this was only the beginning. The temple, the vault, and the golden plates held the legacy of humanity. It was a legacy that he must carry forward. And with that thought, Tamash moved deeper into the mysteries of the temple, ready for whatever challenges awaited him next. Tamash moved carefully through the vault, his eyes fixed on the glowing machines and golden plates around him. Every step echoed softly in the silent chamber. The deeper he went, the stronger he felt a presence watching him. The golden light seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, and the walls vibrated faintly. He paused, listening, and realized the energy was not just in the machines, it was around him, almost alive. From the far corners of the vault, faint shapes began to form. At first, Tamash thought it was a trick of the light, shadows dancing on the walls. But the shapes grew taller and clearer. Figures made entirely of golden energy rose from the floor. They were humanoid, elegant, and precise. Tamash stopped in his tracks, heart pounding. The figures did not move aggressively. They floated in place, observing him. Tamash took a deep breath, steadying himself. He remembered the first chamber, where similar guardians had appeared. These were different, larger, and more detailed, but their presence felt like a test rather than a threat. One of the figures moved closer, its light forming the shape of a human hand reaching out. Tamash instinctively lifted his own hand, and the figure's fingers aligned with his. A voice spoke in his mind, soft but clear. "Human, you have come far. Few have reached this place. The vault is not only a record but a responsibility. You must understand what lies within before it can be used." Tamash nodded slowly. "I understand. I mean no harm. I only seek knowledge." The figure pulsed with light, almost like a nod. "You have shown patience and wisdom to reach here. Others have come with greed, yet you have come with curiosity. This vault was created for your kind, long ago, before the stars were mapped by your people. Humans were builders, explorers, teachers. The knowledge here is a continuation of that legacy." Tamash's mind raced. Humanity, he thought, had always believed it was small and fragile in the galaxy. Yet these words suggested something greater. The vault had been waiting for humans capable of understanding it. Humans had built civilizations beyond Earth long before anyone knew. He looked around at the figures. Their light shifted and formed shapes, showing images of humans working together across planets, building structures, mapping the stars. Tamash realized the Guardians were not only watchers but teachers. They could show the story of humanity to those who could perceive it. The largest figure moved toward a pedestal at the center of the vault. Its glowing hand hovered over a golden plate, and the symbols on it became brighter. Tamash stepped closer, studying the plate. It showed humans discovering energy sources, constructing machines, and navigating across planets. It was not just technology but knowledge of the universe itself. The figure's voice returned in Tamash's mind. This is the legacy of your people. It was preserved for one who could appreciate it, one who could carry it forward. We are here to guide, not to control. You must understand the responsibility that comes with this knowledge. Tamash swallowed hard. He realized the weight of what he had discovered. The vault contained tools, blueprints, and wisdom beyond what humans currently possessed. In the wrong hands, it could be dangerous. In the right hands, it could transform the future of humanity. He studied the machines nearby. Some resembled telescopes, projectors, or flying devices. Others were energy sources, glowing softly with potential. Tamash knew these devices had been built to teach humans how to use them wisely. The carvings on the plates explained their function, but only someone who could think clearly and carefully could understand them fully. The guardians did not speak aloud, but their presence guided him. Tamash moved to a corner of the vault where small golden plates were stacked. They showed people observing stars, recording measurements, and creating machines that worked with the natural world. It was a lesson in patience, intelligence, and observation. He realized the guardians had designed the vault as a test and a lesson. It was not enough to find the plates or machines, one had to understand their purpose. Tamash felt both excitement and humility. He was not here to take the knowledge lightly. He was here to learn, to honor the legacy of those who had created it. Hours passed as Tamash explored. He traced patterns on the walls and pedestals, pressing symbols in the correct sequence to unlock additional plates. Each time he completed a sequence, a new section of the vault lit up, revealing more golden plates and machines. The guardians floated beside him, guiding without interfering. One guardian moved closer and projected a series of images into the air. Tamash saw humans building structures with careful precision, teaching one another, observing the stars, and sharing knowledge. The images were like a history book, but written in energy and light. He realized the builders had left these lessons to prepare future generations for challenges across the galaxy. Tamash knelt by a glowing pedestal and studied a plate showing a machine that could travel between planets using energy from stars. He traced the diagrams with his fingers, understanding the principles behind it. The guardians pulsed with light, approving his careful study. A second figure moved to another pedestal, showing Tamash a map of stars and planets. The routes were not random, they showed possible paths for exploration, trade, and communication. Tamash felt awe at the intelligence of the humans who had created this. They had thought far ahead, planning for a future they might never see themselves. The guardians spoke again, their thoughts entering Tamash's mind. Remember, human, this knowledge is a responsibility. You must protect it, preserve it, and use it to guide others. Do not let greed or fear corrupt what has been entrusted to you. The vault will reveal more as you prove your understanding. Tamash nodded, feeling the seriousness of their words. He realized he had been chosen not just to discover the vault but to become its keeper. The guardians had tested his patience, intelligence, and respect for knowledge. He had passed, and now the next stage awaited him. He moved to the far side of the vault, where a large door stood, different from the others. It pulsed with energy, responding to his presence. The guardians gestured toward it. Tamash understood that behind this door lay the most important part of the vault, the core of knowledge, the center where the greatest secrets were kept. He approached slowly, stepping carefully, knowing that each action mattered. The golden figures remained behind him, silent and glowing, their light bathing the vault. Tamash could feel their approval and guidance. He knew he was ready to enter the final chamber, to see what had been preserved for humans across the centuries. As he reached the door, the guardians' voices spoke in unison in his mind. Go forward, human. The legacy of your people is here. Learn it, protect it, and carry it with wisdom. Tamash took a deep breath and pressed his hand against the door. The energy pulsed in response, and the door slowly opened, revealing a passage bathed in golden light. Tomasz stepped inside, ready to face the next stage of the vault and uncover the ultimate secrets of humanity's past and future. Tomasz stepped into the next chamber, and a wave of golden light greeted him. The walls glowed softly, lined with carvings, symbols, and panels of light. The chamber was larger than any room he had seen so far, and the energy in the air felt stronger, alive. He knew instantly this was the heart of the vault, the place where the builders had preserved the most important knowledge. He walked slowly, eyes wide, taking in every detail. The floor was smooth and polished, reflecting the golden light from the walls. Tall pedestals rose from the ground, each holding plates covered with carvings. Some plates were small, showing human faces and actions. Others were large, depicting machines and maps of distant stars. Tomasz felt as if he had entered a museum, a library, and a school all at once. He approached the first pedestal and ran his fingers across the carvings. The symbols seemed to form a story. He realized they were telling the history of humans far older than Earth records could show. Humans had traveled across planets, built civilizations, and observed the stars. The carvings showed teamwork, intelligence, and courage. Every detail spoke of skill and wisdom that had been passed down carefully. A soft hum filled the chamber, and Tomasz felt the energy shift. The golden figures from the vault appeared again, hovering around the pedestals. They did not speak aloud but communicated in Tomasz's mind. "Look closely, human," they said. "The truth of your kind is here. You were never a species that began on a single world. Humanity has traveled, created, and learned across the stars long before the records of Earth began." Tomasz's heart beat faster. He felt both awe and disbelief. Humans had always believed themselves small and new, but the carvings told a different story. Humanity had been builders, explorers, and record keepers. The vault had preserved this knowledge for someone who could understand it. He moved to another pedestal and saw carvings of humans creating machines that could travel between worlds, harness energy from stars, and build structures without heavy labor. Tomasz traced the diagrams with his fingers, slowly understanding the principles behind them. The technology was advanced, but the carvings also showed the values of careful thought, cooperation, and respect for life. The Guardian's thoughts filled his mind again. This knowledge was never meant for those who would use it for power alone. It was meant for humans who could understand responsibility. Humans were chosen to build, learn, and guide. You now see what was preserved for your kind. Tomasz walked through the chamber, examining each plate carefully. He saw humans teaching one another, recording their discoveries, and sharing knowledge. There were illustrations of people building telescopes, exploring planets, and mapping stars. Every generation had added to the knowledge, ensuring it would survive across time. As he studied, Tomasz noticed a large panel at the far end of the chamber. It was not a pedestal but a wall of light, filled with moving images. He approached and realized the panel was interactive. When he touched the surface, images of planets, humans, and machines shifted, forming patterns he could follow. It was a complete history of human civilization, not just on one world but across many. The golden figures guided him toward the panel. "This is the culmination of the vault," they said in his mind. "Here you see the potential of humanity. You see who you were and who you can become. Learn it, remember it, and carry it forward." Tomasz traced his fingers over the images, watching as the humans in the carvings explored new worlds, created machines to understand nature, and shared knowledge with each other. He realized the vault was not just about technology. It was about understanding, wisdom, and the responsibility to use knowledge for the good of all. He reached a section that showed humans building a great machine that could map the stars and guide travelers across galaxies. Symbols indicated careful calculations and precise designs. Tomasz understood that these humans had mastered both science and patience. Their goal was not power but learning, teaching, and preserving the story of humanity. A rush of emotion filled him. He felt pride in being human, connected to a lineage far older than he had ever imagined. The vault had revealed a truth that no history book or record could convey. Humans were not newcomers. They were explorers, builders, and guardians of knowledge, chosen to carry this legacy forward. The guardian's presence remained around him, warm and encouraging. "Now you know," they said. "The vault has chosen you because you see beyond the surface. You understand that knowledge is not only power but responsibility. Protect it, learn from it, and guide others when the time comes." Tomasz stepped back and looked around the chamber. Every pedestal, plate, and machine was part of a story, a lesson, and a test. The Guardians had designed the vault to ensure that only someone with patience, intelligence, and respect for history could unlock it fully. He realized how carefully everything had been prepared, and how much trust had been placed in humans to find it again. He approached a pedestal with a large golden plate. Its carvings depicted humans standing on hills, pointing toward the stars, teaching younger generations, and recording their discoveries. Tomasz touched the plate, and the golden light pulsed in response. He felt as if the humans in the carvings were acknowledging him, welcoming him into their story. Hours passed as Tomasz studied the chamber. He traced the carvings, examined the machines, and absorbed the lessons. Every moment revealed something new: a design for a machine, a method for observing planets, a philosophy for working together. The vault was more than a repository of knowledge. It was a guide, a teacher, and a message across time. Finally, Tomasz stepped back, taking a deep breath. The revelation was clear. Humanity had a history far beyond what anyone had imagined. The vault had preserved it for centuries, waiting for a human capable of understanding and protecting it. The knowledge was not only a gift but a responsibility. The golden figures spoke one last time. "Remember, human. You carry the legacy now. The vault has revealed the truth of your kind. Protect it, learn from it, and ensure that future generations understand who they are. The stars await your guidance." Tomasz bowed his head, humbled and inspired. He knew the journey through the temple had changed him. He had discovered not just a vault but a connection to humanity's past, a guide for the future, and a responsibility that he could not take lightly. As he turned to leave, Tomasz looked back one last time at the glowing plates and golden machines. He understood that the vault would remain, a hidden treasure waiting for the next human who could continue the story. But for now, he carried the knowledge and the truth in his heart, ready to bring it into the world beyond the temple. Tomasz climbed the final steps of the temple, leaving behind the golden vault that had revealed the truth of humanity. The sunlight greeted him as he stepped outside, warm and bright against his skin. The valley below looked peaceful, unchanged after centuries, but Tomasz knew that he had returned with something far more important than what anyone could see. He paused at the edge of the ruins, looking back at the temple. It was still strong, still standing, as if guarding the knowledge it held. Tomasz felt a sense of connection to the builders who had created it. They had trusted humans to return, to understand, and to protect their legacy. That trust weighed on him, and yet it filled him with pride. Tomasz descended carefully toward the grass below. Each step felt lighter than before, yet his mind was full. He thought of the golden plates, the glowing machines, and the guardians of light. He remembered their words about responsibility, wisdom, and the future. The vault had shown him that humanity was not a simple species, it was capable of building, learning, and guiding across the stars. As he walked, he thought about what he should do with the knowledge he now carried. The golden plates could not leave the vault. They were too precious, too delicate, and too important to be moved. Yet he had learned enough to understand their meaning and the principles behind them. He could record the lessons, the designs, and the philosophy. He could preserve them in another form for future generations. Tomasz reached the edge of the valley and sat on a rock, taking out his notebook. He began to write, describing everything he had seen. He drew diagrams from the plates, recorded the machine's functions, and summarized the history he had learned from the carvings. Each word felt important. Each page was a bridge between the past and the future. As the sun climbed higher, Tomasz thought about the wider world. Aliens had explored the temple and left disappointed, believing it empty. Earth had always seemed small in the universe, fragile and alone. Yet Tomasz now knew the truth. Humans had built, created, and explored far beyond any single planet. The vault was proof of that. He paused to rest, looking up at the sky. The constellations above the valley were familiar yet distant, just like the ones in the vault's carvings. Tomasz felt a strong connection to them. The stars were more than points of light, they were destinations, markers of journeys humans had taken long ago and might take again. Tomasz stood and began walking back toward the nearby village. He carried no gold, no treasure from the vault, but he had something far more valuable, understanding and purpose. He knew that sharing this knowledge would not be easy. People might doubt him. Some might even fear the truth. But he had seen the evidence with his own eyes, and he felt the responsibility to teach it carefully. When he reached the village, children ran toward him, curious about the stranger who had spent so long in the temple. Tomasz smiled gently and waved. He could see their curiosity and excitement, and he remembered the carvings showing humans teaching the young. He realized that education was the first step toward carrying the vault's legacy forward. Tomasz began to speak to the villagers, telling them of the temple, the carvings, and the golden vault hidden beneath the stone. He did not reveal every detail, keeping the most important knowledge safe for those ready to learn. Yet he shared enough to inspire awe, curiosity, and respect for history. The villagers listened, amazed by his stories. Some were skeptical, but the spark of curiosity had been planted. Over the following weeks, Tomasz continued to study the vault from a distance. Each day he returned with notes, sketches, and ideas. He experimented with small principles from the plates, building simple machines that demonstrated energy, motion, and observation. The villagers began to help, learning from Tomasz, and slowly understanding the value of careful thought, cooperation, and curiosity. The Golden Guardians had warned him that knowledge was a responsibility, not a gift for greed. Tomasz lived by that lesson. He did not rush to share everything, but he prepared those who were ready. He built a small school near the temple ruins where children and adults could learn about science, history, and exploration. It was not only about machines and tools but also about values, patience, wisdom, and teamwork. One evening, Tomasz climbed to the top of the hill overlooking the temple. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the valley. He looked at the ruins, remembering the glowing vault and the golden figures. A sense of peace filled him. The temple had chosen him, but now it was time for humans to continue the journey themselves. He spoke quietly to the temple, though no one was there to hear him except the wind. I will protect your knowledge. I will learn from it, and I will guide others. The stars are not beyond our reach. Humanity can rise again. The air seemed to shimmer faintly, as if the temple approved. Tomasz smiled. He understood now that the vault was more than a storage place for history. It was a test, a teacher, and a beacon. It had reminded humanity of who they truly were and what they could become. Tomasz returned to the village with renewed purpose. He knew the future would be challenging. Some humans might forget, some might be tempted by greed, and some might dismiss the lessons. But he also knew that humans were resilient, curious, and intelligent. If they learned the truth, they could create a new age of discovery, exploration, and cooperation. He began to train others, teaching them the principles he had learned. He showed them how to observe the stars, record discoveries, and build machines with care and intelligence. He encouraged teamwork, creativity, and respect for life. Slowly, the village transformed into a place of learning and growth. The legacy of the vault spread quietly, preparing the next generation to carry humanity's story into the universe. As years passed, Tomasz grew older, but the fire in his heart never dimmed. The temple remained hidden in the valley, its secrets safe, waiting for those who were ready to learn. The golden vault had revealed the past, but it had also inspired the future. Tomasz knew that humans would rise again, exploring the stars, creating new civilizations, and remembering the lessons of their ancestors. One morning, Tomasz climbed the hill once more, looking at the sunrise over the valley. The wind whispered through the grass, and the temple stood strong in the distance. He felt hope, pride, and determination. Humanity's journey was far from over. They were not alone, they were not weak, and they were not forgotten. Tomasz smiled, ready to continue guiding those who would follow. The legacy of the vault was alive in every child learning by the fire, in every mind curious about the stars, and in every hand willing to build, explore, and protect. Humanity had a history, a purpose, and a future. The golden vault beneath the temple ruins had ensured that the story would never be lost. And with that thought, Tomasz turned back toward the village, carrying the knowledge, the responsibility, and the hope of generations yet to come.